If a man was to step back and to reflect on how he experiences life, what he may find is that he spends a lot of time feeling helpless. And so this is going to mean that he spends a lot of time in an emotionally collapsed state, and he is not in his power. And so he can believe that he doesn't have much control over his life, and that he just has to tolerate what is going on. And if just about every area of his life is not very fulfilling, it is then going to be normal for him to feel depressed and very low. Life can be seen as something that he just has to tolerate, can be seen as a curse as opposed to a blessing. So he's not going to have much fun or to experience much joy. And so his job or his career even could be soul destroying. His relationships might not be very rewarding. He could often be walked over and find it hard to say no. And so he is not going to have access to the strength that is within him. He can be like a doormat, and he can have a very high tolerance for bad behavior and pain. And of course, in order for this to change, he will need to connect to his power. He will need to get out of this collapsed state and to no longer spend so much time in his parasympathetic nervous system. He will need to get into his sympathetic nervous system so he can get things moving. And if another person was to pay attention to how he lives his life, they could say that he is an emasculated man and that he is not in his power. And if he was to hear this, he could agree with them. And he could find that his life has been this way for as long as he can remember. And what this can show is that during his early years, his father physically harmed him. But now that he is an adult, he might not be able to remember much about what took place. And this is likely to show that his brain, in order to protect him, blocked out what took place during his early years. And so many years will have passed, but what took place way back will still be defining his life. And so during this time, he may have often been physically harmed and perhaps verbally abused. And this may have taken place for a number of years. And so when he was being harmed by his father, due to the power imbalance, he would have felt and been totally helpless. Because he would not have been able to fight back, because if he did, of course, this would have caused him to be harmed even more, and he wouldn't have been able to run away. He might have been able to isolate himself, but he would not have been able to completely leave this dysfunctional environment. And not only would he have felt helpless, but in order to try to stop his father from harming him, he would have often gone into a frozen, collapsed state and automatically gone into the fawn survival response. So he would have played dead automatically in the hope that he would not be harmed, in the hope that he would no longer be seen as a threat and would be left. And so although many years will have passed since the stage of his life, being helpless and powerless and being in this collapsed state will be what feels safe. And he can believe deep down that if he was to activate himself and to stand up for himself, he would be harmed just like he would have been then, and that his life would come to an end. So in order to get out of this collapsed, powerless state, he is likely to have a lot of emotional pain to work through, trauma to resolve, and beliefs and associations to question. Because although playing dead and not being in his power would have served him then, it will no longer be serving him now. Now it is safe for him to be in his power. So there will be working through his wounds and realizing that it is safe for him to be alive, for him to stand his ground, to ultimately reintegrate his aggression, to be connected to his aggression and this fight instinct. because this will have been knocked out of him, and this is why he will be the shadow of the man that he could be. So if you're a man and you can relate to this, you can see that you have been in a very collapsed, helpless state for most of your life, and your aggression has just about disappeared, then it will be essential for you to reach out for the right support so that you can gradually become a more integrated and whole human being, to gradually step into your power and to live a life that is worth living. So please don't suffer in silence, and do what you need to do to change your life. If you would like to find out more about the services that I offer, please go to www.oliverjrcooper.co.uk or email me at info@oliverjrcooper.co.uk, and I'm looking forward to assisting you on your journey.